But about a week ago, a longtime migrant rights activist, the Reverend Alejandro Solalinde, noticed a change. Large numbers of migrants started getting off the train in Ixtepec, the Oaxaca town where his Brothers on the Road shelter is located. With dozens of police and immigration checkpoints dotting the highways, many migrants now view the train as a safer, albeit still risky, way to reach the U.S. border. They're riding the train again, that's a fact, said Solalinde, whose shelter now houses about 300 train-riding migrants. It's going to go back to the way it was. The Mexican government doesn't want them to be seen. If the migrants move quietly like a stream of little ants, they'll allow them to, but they are not going to allow them to move through Mexico publicly or massively as they did with the large caravans that began in October. In fact, Solalinde predicts they're not going to allow caravans anymore. In Monday's raid, federal police and agents detained 371 people, wrestling men, women, and children into patrol trucks and vans and hauling them off, presumably to begin deportation proceedings. Many other migrants abandoned the road and fled into the surrounding countryside. The decision to turn to the beast derives from several reasons, all related to the crackdown. With throngs of police pickups and small immigration vans parked at checkpoints up and down the narrow waste of southern Mexico, hitchhiking, taking buses, or walking is no longer an option. Truckers, warned by the government that they could face fines, no longer give rides to the migrants as they did last year. Migrants are pulled off buses, and rounded up off the sides of highways when they stop to rest. Now we're going by train because we can't go on buses, because they won't let us through, said Rudy Margarita Montoya, the wife of a Honduran carpenter, who was perched atop a freight car with her young son and daughter and her husband. Mexican authorities are holding them back at specific points to turn the south of the country into a retaining wall, Camargo said. And while migrants have resorted to caravans seeking safety in numbers, he said that following Monday's raid many migrants will surely change their strategies. They will immediately have to switch from visibility to invisibility, and that can make them more vulnerable and more at risk. It's not as if the migrants think the train is safe, they acknowledge the dangers of riding through the darkness perched high atop the freight cars. Just like increased U.S. border protection, Mexico's increased enforcement efforts push migrants into using more dangerous means of travel. Carlos Mariquin, a mechanic from El Salvador, and his wife Brenda Gomez, 24, clambered onto the train with their son, 5 and daughter, 10. Mariquin ticked off the dangers facing them on the rails. There are drug traffickers, gangs, thieves, but we're putting everything into this, because it means everything. If we can't walk, if we can't take the bus, we'll go on the train, Mariquin said. Enrique Valiente, a 19-year-old roofer from El Salvador who came to the U.S. at 3, spent much of his life in Nevada and was deported last May after a traffic stop. He said Mexico had flatly refused to consider him for asylum. He is afraid to return to his native country, which he knows little about and where he has almost no remaining relatives, because he isn't familiar with complex rules of getting along with street gangs in El Salvador, and could fall afoul of them. I asked them to consider me for asylum and they just said no, you've been rejected. The train was popular for years, back when caravan just meant small Holy Week demonstrations by migrants on the Guatemala-Mexico border. Now, the train is popular once again. Solalinde compared it to trying to squeeze off a leaky garden hose. Wherever Mexican authorities crack down, the migrants find an alternate route. Nobody is ever going to be able to stop the flow of migration, Solalinde said. Associated Press writer Maria Verza in Mexico City contributed to this report.